So my mother was having a lot of trouble with the usage of the words been and being. So here I am just to make it easier for you as well. Before we begin with how to use these two words, let me give you a little bit of a background info of where these words come from. As you might already know, the word been and being are actually just two different forms of the actual word be. Now what is be? Is it a verb? Is it a noun? Is it a preposition? Before you decide, I want you to take a look at this example. I'll be there. Now most of you might think it's a preposition because it's telling where I'm gonna be, but no. Be is a word that's describing my existence, and according to the definition, occurrence, existence of an occurrence, or the act of existing. All of these are words which would be considered as verbs. So since be is describing my existence at some place, it's a verb. Just like eat, ate, eating, eaten, we have the word be, been, and being. The word eaten, eating, ate, they're just different forms of the actual word eat, okay? So we don't have to go looking into the dictionary. They're not different words, they're actually just different forms of one word, eat. So same goes for been and being. Been and being are just two different forms of the actual word be. So according to the time of action, the word be is being transformed into either been or being. Now the question arises, when are we going to use been? When are we going to use being? When are we going to use be? Okay, so just like it is with the word eat, we can say eating if the action is continuous, if it's still going on. We can say eaten if it's perfect, if it's done. Just like that, we use the words been and being depending upon the time of action and the completion of an action. So been is used when we're talking about perfection. For example, if I was doing something and I am done doing that, or I was doing that up till this point, but that act has finished now. For example, I was waiting for you, okay? So I was waiting for you for an hour, then for another hour, then for another hour, but now you're here. So the act of waiting has stopped. I'm not waiting anymore. So I could say, I have been waiting for you. Also, this is to be used in the past tense, okay? For example, I'm not still waiting for you. I was waiting for you, but I'm not waiting for you anymore. Even though I'm mad at you, I'm not waiting for you anymore. So this is the situation where I will be using the word been, okay? Now, there are two rules for the usage of word been. It has to be in the past and it has to be in the perfect tense, okay? The action that was going on has stopped now, and now you can use the word been. And the action was also in the past. It could not be in the future. Now, if the words been and being are just other forms of the word be, why aren't we as comfortable with these two words, been and being, as we are with the words, for example, eat, eating, and eaten? It's not as complicated with eaten and eating, but it is very complicated with the word been and being. For starters, the other verbs are very important. For example, eat. If you were to say, I was eating, there isn't possibly any sentence that you can manufacture which would avoid the usage of the word eat or eating. But with been and being, it's very easy for you to avoid using those words, so you don't use them very often. You don't feel obligated to learn about those words. When you don't feel obligated to use those words, it's very easy for you to get befuddled by them when you absolutely have to. Also, been and being are two words which are used in more of an advanced sentence structure, and it's quite easy for you to build a teeny tiny simple sentence without using these two words. You could easily build a sentence without using the words been and being. For example, if I were to say, I have been waiting for you for 2 hours, it's very easy for me to remove the words have been and just say, I was waiting for you for the last 2 hours. So whenever I have to say in real life, when I have to say that I was doing this thing for this long, but it's done now, I would not think of using the word been. I would just say, I was doing this for this long up till now. Going with the simpler form of the sentence than using the words have been or has been. when you were doing something in the past, and it doesn't have to be very far in the past, okay? It could be very recent, but you have stopped doing that. You're done with it, okay? That's when you use the word been. So it has to be perfect, means the task that was on hand or the action that was going on has now completed. Also, it has to be in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean 10 years ago. It means it could have been just a few seconds ago. Now, moving on to the word being. Being is actually used to describe the form or the state of something. For example, if someone is telling a lot of jokes, but they are not this funny all the time, okay? They're telling a lot of jokes at the moment. I could say, you're being funny, okay? Now, I could also say, he's funny, but in general, he's not. So I must use the word being. But it's very easy for people to generalize a characteristic just in order to avoid the usage of the word being. So if someone or something is in a state, we use the word being. It has to be in the present form, okay? And it has to be describing a state. So in order to say, he is funny right now, I could say, he's being funny. Also, there's one more thing I would want you to know. It's general advice. The thing is, you should not be as concerned about rules as you should be about practice. Before today, I have not known any rules of using the word been or being, but from the time I've gotten comfortable with English language, I don't think I have ever used them incorrectly. Whenever you take a look at a sentence, just consider whether it's perfect, whether it's in the past. If it checks both these boxes, you just use the word have been, okay, or has been, any of these two, depending upon the subject. The more you start to practice, the better you'll get at it. You don't need to adhere to the rules, because there are going to be many sentences where these rules would require a lot of explanation. The rules will keep adding on and on and on. To get more comfortable with English language in general, you don't need to memorize any rules. There are going to be videos which will be explaining a lot of rules, which will be explaining all the rules that are of the words been and being. Just don't get too much into your head. You don't have to pay too much attention to the rules. Rules in language don't mean anything unless you're getting a degree in English. So if you're not applying for a PhD in English, don't get too concerned about the rules. Just practice this and just try to get more comfortable with the language itself.